everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be talking about the top 10 romances from the GoodReads Choice Awards for 2021. I have pretty much read all of them. I say pretty much because I did DNF one of them, but I'm going to talk about which ones I liked. I'm going to sort of rank them myself, and let's just get right into it. I'm going to start with the very first book on this list, which is my personal favorite. It is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. This book did win the top place in the romance genre this year, which I was personally really excited for. It's the one I voted for. It was the only book on this list actually that I gave 5 stars to. For whatever reason, I just really connected with this book and both characters in it, which is unusual for me. I tend to sort of gravitate towards one character, but in this one I felt like I could see myself in both of them, so I think that was why this one was just kind of a little bit more special to me. And if you didn't know, this one follows a sort of friends to enemies to lovers kind of situation where this couple has gone on vacation every year since they were in college, and they're not together, they're just like best friends, and they travel all the time, like I said, once a year, and then all of a sudden they stop. And basically you are sort of reading this book, sort of working your way towards finding out why they stopped sort of going on these trips together and what happened with that. And I just really like this one. Like I said, I really related to both characters and I thought it was really well written. And obviously a lot of people did too, because this one won, like I said, so I was really happy to see that. Next, for me, number 2 was The Love Hypothesis by Hazelwood. I really liked this one. This would have been a very close sort of contender for me to compete with People We Meet on Vacation. My only complaint about this book was I found that some of the things were just a little, like, cheesy or like really unbelievable. Like the sunscreen scene in this book just kind of irked me, and like a couple little things in this I was like, okay, that's just like really unrealistic. But I did like the couple, you know, their story in general. This one follows a girl who ends up fake dating a professor in her department. She's a master's student, and she ends up fake dating him to convince her friend that she's over this guy that she went on like one date with and doesn't have any interest in, but her friend does have an interest in him. So she sort of fake dates him, and obviously things get complicated with that. And I did really like this one. Like I said, this one definitely, I gave this one 4.5 stars. I would have given it 5 if it weren't for like the annoying little scenes that kind of bothered me. But I did overall really enjoy this book. Number 3 for me was It Happened One Summer by Tessa. I really like this book. It's definitely got the sort of grumpy sunshine trope going on, which I really liked. I also really love like a good like small town book, and this definitely had that. This one follows a sort of really rich girl that gets cut off and sent to this small town where I believe she was born there, and she just sort of has to figure things out. She doesn't really have any money. She just got this bar that her biological dad had owned, and now she's kind of, you know, trying to run it and things, but the townspeople are kind of, you know, iffy on this, you know, rich girl that's just shown up to take over, and she ends up falling for a local fisherman, and I just really thought this one was cute. Like I said, I'm such a sucker for like small town books, and this definitely had that. I gave this one 4 stars. I think when I read it, I did really like it. Maybe 4.5 stars actually. Like I said, really loved this one. It was super cute and definitely had all the small town vibes, and I can see why like so many people really like this one. Number 4 for me was The Ex Hex by Erin Sterling. I really love this book. I know this book like got a lot of flack for being like kind of cheesy and predictable, which like I will admit like this book was kind of predictable, but for me this book just really filled a hole in the romance genre world that really needed to be filled. Like I remember last year I kept looking for a Halloween romance, and they just don't really exist. Like there's not many of them out there at all. There's tons of like regular paranormal romances that people recommend around Halloween time, but I feel like this is one of the first like mainstream Halloween romances that was very clearly written for Halloween, and so I really liked just sort of the uniqueness of that. If you haven't read this one, it follows a girl whose ex shows up years later, and she realized that she sort of may have accidentally hexed him when they broke up years before, and he shows up to sort of recharge the town lines with magic or something like that. And like I said, it's sort of cheesy, it's very like Halloween Town-esque, but it's just like a really cute Halloween romance, and I did really enjoy this one. Number 5 for me was Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is actually my favorite book in the Brown Sisters trilogy. I didn't really love Chloe Brown. Danny Brown was pretty good. This one was like easily my favorite though. This one follows Eve Brown, who sort of gets told like that she has never held down a job and things, and like her parents are like, go get a job and hold it down for X amount of time, and then we'll like basically you'll get access to your trust fund kind of thing. Like they're gonna cut her off if she doesn't get a job. So her solution to that is running away, and she ends up at this sort of B&B where this guy is interviewing her, and they're like interviewing for this chef position. She just randomly decides to interview, and there's two guys interviewing her. One is Jacob, who is autistic, and he just like hates her on the spot. He's like, nope, can't hire her. And the guy that's with him is like, no, maybe we should give her a chance. And so they both end up going to look for her in the parking lot as she's leaving, and she accidentally runs into Jacob with her car, and the story sort of goes from there. I just really thought this one was cute. Like I said, definitely my favorite of the Brown sisters books, and I think I just related to this one a lot more in sort of people telling her like she should be doing this or that and different things, and I just really like this one. Next at number 6 was The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. This one follows a girl and her best friend who sit in this coffee shop every day and have sort of nicknamed this guy that comes in Americano because that's what he orders every day. And they find out he is working for this company where they are developing a matchmaking service based on your DNA. And her friend is a romance author, so she's like, of course, we have to go, like, hear more about this. And she sort of drags the main character to this lab to go, like, spit in a tube or whatever. And she says, no, like, I'm not gonna do it. Like, I don't really want to, like, get involved in this. And then one day she's just feeling really down, so she decides she's going to. And of course, she ends up being like a very solid match for this guy from the coffee shop, and it sort of goes from there. I really liked the direction this one went. I thought this book was going to be like kind of really predictable, but I actually found that I really, like I said, liked the direction that it did go. And I love Christina Lauren's books in general, so that was, you know, something that I was hopeful that they were going to do a good job with it, which they did. And so I did really like this one as well. Also gave this one 4 stars. Number 7 for me was Neon Gods by Katee Robert. I really liked the concept of this one. It's a Hades and Persephone retelling, and it is really interestingly done. It's very sort of set in the modern world. Hades runs a club. It's very, you know, like current day Hades and Persephone. My issue with this book is that for whatever reason, I gave this one 3 stars. When I read it, I felt like the book was written almost as 2 different plot lines. One that was all smut and one that was all storyline. It was like you couldn't have both in the same chapter almost. It was like one chapter was smut and then 2 chapters of plot and then 1 chapter of smut. It was just like really weird to me. Like they felt very disconnected, and I thought that was really strange, and I've never read a book like that. So I didn't love this one. I have read some of Katee Roberts' other books, and I have liked a few of them, so it's definitely just like maybe a this book thing for me. I don't know. But like I said, I did really like the concept behind this book, and I know a lot of people really love this one, but it just wasn't really for me. Number 8 for me was 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. This one I didn't love. This was a second chance romance where the couple sort of finds their way back together years later, obviously. But what I really didn't like with this one was that when the couple's sort of together the first time, they're not really together. Like they spend like a week hooking up, and she's high and he's drunk the whole time, so I'm like, was it really like a relationship that you could actually call a second chance kind of, you know, thing? To me, not really. I mean, I guess it depends on your perspective. I know a lot of people really love this one as well, but I just couldn't grasp this like idea that they were so in love with each other from all these years before, when like to me they weren't really together all the years before anyway. And so that just like kind of bothered me in this one. I couldn't really connect with their like feelings, I guess, because it just felt so like surface level because it had to be at that point. And I don't know, maybe that was just me, but like I said, I don't know, I didn't connect with that. I've noticed that's something that's bugging me more in books though, is things like that are sort of like unbelievable. Like if that happened in real life, I don't see someone being like, oh yeah, I dated a guy in high school for a week and we like hooked up and we were drunk most of the time, but yeah, he's the love of my life. Like I just don't really just enjoy books like that anymore, I've come to realize. So maybe that's just a me thing, I don't really know. But like the actual romance that stemmed in the second part, I did think was good. I just didn't like that they were trying to like make it a second chance romance when I felt like the first romance had never happened. Next at number 9 for me was The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas, and I know people are probably gonna like really come for me for this one, but I did not like this book at all, really. I gave this one 3 stars solely because this book does have those cutesy moments that I really like the very hating game-esque moments where you're smiling at the page like a dork. It definitely had those, and I can see why people would love this book because it has those, but it was just so long and so slow, and I was so bored throughout this book. Like, I wanted to DNF this so bad. I've never been so excited to see the words "the end" in the end of a book, like, ever in my entire life. I really pushed myself to read this one, and I just didn't love it. I found that throughout the book, basically, if you haven't heard of this one, it's about a girl who, this sort of like guy in her office that she says she hates and she says he hates her, he volunteers to go on this trip to Spain with her to her sister's wedding as her date. But what really bothered me about this book was that she really keeps like emphasizing how much she hates this guy and how he hates her, and they're just like rivals and enemies and whatever. But they're really not, because right from the start of the book, he is just like insanely nice to her, like all the time. Like there was never a point where I was like, wow, yeah, he's such a jerk, like I totally see why you hate him. He was literally nice to her the entire book and was like straight up telling her that he liked her, and she was still oblivious. Like I was going insane reading this book because like he wasn't even trying to pretend that they didn't like each other. And she was just constantly complaining about how much they hated each other, and I was like, why? Like I still don't get this book. I really don't. And like I said, it took me forever to read this. It was way too long. It was just really dragged out. I didn't love it. I wish I had loved it because everybody else seems to love it, but this just was not it for me at all. Like I said, I gave it 3 stars because of the cutesy moments, but like in all reality I would have said like maybe like 2 stars. And lastly, at number 10 was One Last Stop by Katee McQuiston. I feel like I need to say this. I knew I wasn't going to like this book. I knew when this book came out I wasn't going to like this book. I read Red, White, and Royal Blue last summer, just past 2021, this summer. And it wasn't what I expected. I didn't love it because I didn't love all the political references, and I think part of my reading experience was tainted by the fact that I am Canadian. I know pretty much nothing about like the monarchy or American politics really, so there were a couple references in that book that I just didn't get, and I don't think it helped that I read it at a cottage with like no phone service or Wi-Fi or anything, so I couldn't even Google the things in the book. So sometimes I just felt like I didn't know what they were talking about, and I felt like it almost hindered the romance because I was wondering what like political references they were making. And so I didn't love that one, but I did think that like if Katee McQuiston had written something else that wasn't sort of politics based, I thought I might like it, because I did enjoy the romance in that book when it was like the focus was on that. So I kept thinking like, okay, if she comes out with another book, I'll probably like that better. And then she announced this book and I was like, oh man, because I hate time travel. Like I don't know why, I really hate it in books, in movies. It's not a me thing at all. And so I knew when I read this book that I was not gonna like it, because its predominant theme is time travel. And so I was just like, okay, I sucked it up. I was like, I'm gonna listen to the audiobook. And honestly, I made it 16% in before I was like, I just can't force myself to read it. I think if I had finished it, I would have given it a low rating because I wouldn't have liked it, because I knew I wasn't gonna like it. And I'm really sad about that because, like I said, I do think I would like Katee McQuiston's books or writing if I could just find something that fit me, but I'm starting to think maybe me and her have very different interests, so maybe she's just not going to be an author for me. But I do think a lot of people like her books, so definitely like still check them out. I'm not telling you not to read that book. It's just like I said, I really hate time travel, and it was just such a predominant theme in that book that I could not get behind it. But anyway, those are the top 10 romances from the GoodReads Choice Awards 2021. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. I do new book videos every single week, and I'll see you next time.